Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be going over, should you change your gearbox fluid on your ZF transmission? Now, as you guys know, the majority of my members on my channel have all got a ZF transmission, regardless if that's diesel, regardless if that's petrol. It relates for all cars with the ZF transmission. Now you guys know they come in 6-speed, 7-speed and even 8-speed now. So we're going to go over if you should change the gearbox fluid on your ZF transmission.
Working, that's why I am. Better move that link cable, bro, you can't twang. There ain't no fainting round here, fam, my gang. I will straight for your HP, that's why they call man. Yo, talking like say you're gonna sky me. When I draw for the ball, you be like, why me? Trust me, cuz one by one I'll make. So,
this is a question I'm asked a lot of whether you should change the gearbox fluid on your car. Now, from my personal and my experience dealing in BMWs, especially here in the UK, I don't suggest you change that gearbox fluid. And the reason for this is simply because I've come across many people in the UK. We used to get it a lot in the garages as well, where people would come in, you would do their gearbox, a week later grenade and they'll try and blame you and claim on the warranty, repairs, and try and sue the garages, which is what a lot of people do. Now, because of that, the best thing I recommend here in the UK is not to touch your gearbox fluid. I've got my E60 with the M2 engine on nearly 165k and it's never been changed once. Now, you get the people who swear by it, you get the people that don't agree with it. I believe servicing them can be more catastrophic for the engine than it's worth it. Now, in the USA and other countries, that's not the case with BMW, and that's because the climate is all over the place, i.e. the weather. So for instance, you'll go to one extreme being extremely hot, which the oil ends up evaporating from the amount of heat on the floor and from the heat from the coming to the engine, or to extremely cold where people either redline their cars and the gearbox oil, as you know, it's a very thick oil, can't get up to temperature as quickly because it's just too cold and it's too cold of a climate in the climate. So therefore, I recommend changing it in the USA. Yes, I do, because the mechatronic sleeves on the mechatronics, they end up breaking down due to heat and wearing down, because as you guys know, they're like rubber. So they just end up breaking down anyway. But in the UK, as we don't get them extreme climates, I do not recommend changing it. In the UK, a lot of people seem to swear by changing it on the diesels because they seem to think it's going to prolong the gearbox or prolong the life of the gearbox. Many people have come to find out it doesn't, and it ends up with problems, something they never had before because of doing that. Now, my strong suggestion is, if you're going to change it, make sure you do it properly and do not let a garage do it, because the reason for that is a lot of garages drain it completely, and then what ends up happening, by the time they start that car up, the oil doesn't get up to temperature quick enough, which means the torque converter is running so dry once the fluid has been drained that it's the torque converter and the clutch packs are stripping themselves against the engine itself. You've got to remember, as soon as you go to engage that, if you've got a diesel, it engages the torque converter to do the torque into the engine, and that's why you'll get a massive thump when it's low, especially cold in the morning, because I know a lot of people with a diesel end up experiencing that thump on the end. Usually that's because they use vacuum operated engine mounts. Now, as you guys know, if they're not up and they're failing and they don't get the engine to the right level, the torque converter is sitting unbalanced from the engine, so when you go to engage it feels like it's thumping it and forcing it into the engine. As you guys know, that can be deadly for your engine as well, but majority of the case people think it's to do with the gearbox, which is not. It's to do with them vacuum operated engine mounts, that the engine ain't reaching level with the gearbox enough, so it's going either too low, it ain't engaging smoothly into the engine. So do I recommend changing the gearbox fluid on your ZF gearbox? No, I don't. Not here in the UK, and definitely not in the EU either. We don't get to them kind of climates that warrants changing the gearbox fluid. In the USA and other countries, as I said, that's completely different, and yes, I do recommend changing it, because as I said, with the heat, the gearbox will end up evaporating, which ends up destroying the gearbox because you end up with low oil. In the UK, every single one I've changed, and take my word on this, even my one I've checked it, is still full, or it's still fine. It's still very thick as well. It's not dark in colour, it's still red, the colour it should be. Now, like I said, that's not to say someone hasn't changed it before, but I've never known it to be changed before, and I highly doubt, because the Seal for Life little bolt was stuck there solid. I know ZF recommend changing it every 40k, as many people will come on here and say. I'm already aware of that, I know that myself. But the problem is, are you going to take ZF's word as golden? Realistically, if you go and change that box and it grenades, is ZF going to pay you up for the new gearbox? Because they're swearing it needs to be changed at 40k. Now, if it grenades, are they going to take full liability for it? No, they're not. That's the difference. If you leave it like that and leave it and it's running perfectly, why need to change it? Mine is still running perfectly on 165k, still changes gear smoothly, and I use it, like I said, daily and for long runs with no issues. It's all a matter of personal preference if people want it done. I know a lot of people will go ahead and change transmission fluid anyway to be on the safe side. I know a lot of people, they buy their car and straight away want to do that. A lot of people would have found that as well. On the E46 chassis, they were changing the gearbox fluid on the 330i's, and on the GM transmission, thinking it was going to prolong the life of it. It doesn't. I've seen many of them here, E46 people change the gearbox fluid and the gearbox goes bang. That's the same for the X5s as well, the E53s on the diesel. GM transmission again, and it goes bang. Yes, the F was a better gearbox, that's why BMW bought them out a lot better. They stopped using the GM transmission, which, as you guys know, is a USA transmission, comes from the Dodges and the Fords and things like that. They were all using it in and putting it in the diesel because it was the only gearbox that could handle the torque for that engine. But a lot of people go and remap it and then believe, yeah, let's go and service the gearbox because it's giving problems. No, the remap has caused problems with the gearbox. No servicing it is going to prolong the life of it. I know people try and use the gearbox sealer as well, gearbox thing, to try and fix any kind of problems in it. It doesn't work. At the end of the day, once the gearbox is knackered, it's knackered on them. In the USA, I highly recommend to go and change the gearbox fluid there because, as I said, the oil does evaporate, and also you get to a cold climate. And take my word on this, guys, if you've got a diesel, if you've got a petrol, let the car warm up, let the gearbox fluid come up to temperature. A lot of the cause of the damages of these and the clutch packs and the torque converter is people driving them off and already turbocharging the crap out of the cars, so they're already flooring it before the gearbox has come up to temperature. This is the main common cause of gearbox failure and transmission failure. In all my time of owning cars, like I say, I haven't experienced that, and I don't look to experience that. And like I'm telling you guys, that's because I let my cars warm up, let the gearbox fluid get up. You got to remember, gearbox fluid is a lot more thicker than your average engine oil. I've done this video purely because I've been asked this a lot of the time, and I just thought I hope this video will help a lot of people out with knowing if they should or shouldn't change their ZF transmission fluid. This also relates for the GM transmission. GM transmission, like I said, again, in the USA, yes, change it. A lot of people go to the forums and then see people swearing by it. I'm telling you right now, these are the US guys, they're not English guys, and if you are in the UK, don't change the transmission fluid. Take my word on that, I'm telling you right now from experience, don't touch that gearbox fluid. You touch it, it will grenade on you. It's a known fact. And yes, you guys are gonna say, why am I recommending the US change? That's because their fluid ends up evaporating, ours don't. Our fluid doesn't break down. Theirs can end up saving their gearbox, but it's still not 100% certain that it's gonna actually save their gearbox or actually keep their gearbox in keep the condition. If it evaporates far enough to the point it's got low oil, it will destroy itself anyway, mechatronics and sleeves. And that's the same even if they try and redo it up, refill it back up, it doesn't matter. Once it's gone, it's gone. And my advice, I'll always go by this, is I won't ever touch the gearbox on these cars. And that's just the way I see it, as everyone to their own. You got other channels that swear by it, but I don't swear by it at all. You know me, guys, I'm very honest. If I thought it would help your car, I would be okay with it. But majority of the causes of either a car not changing gears fast enough is usually to do with an update. A lot of people just still ain't aware of this. They think changing the fluid's gonna help. It doesn't. The problem ends up coming back, and it ends up coming back worse where the gearbox fails. The only thing that rectifies these gearboxes, especially on the ZF, is the update. VF released a load of updates for these gearboxes, and it completely changed the way these cars drive. But as for the diesels, I recommend leaving the diesels well alone, even for update as well. Like I say, the majority of the time for them, slamming into gear when you first start the car is because people putting them into drive while the engine's cold when they first start it. My best advice to you is when you first start a diesel car up, leave it to warm up for about 5 to 10 minutes and then pull it in gear. You'll notice that it won't engage like that. That's because you're not giving the vacuum operated engine mounts time to rise, and you're also not given chance for the fluid to get around, so it's just running dry. But that's all I have to say on this subject, guys. I hope this video is going to help a lot of you who have been questioning me if you should change the gearbox fluid. If you haven't liked this video, please give it a like. Please subscribe if you haven't already. This is BMW Dr. Dean here. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.